All right, everyone. Let's welcome to another Let's Talk Credit Beyond Credit. We're back to Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Never know when these are going to show up. So I advise you to subscribe, follow on whatever platform that you're on in order to be able to know when I'm going to go live with these. We have an exciting day today coming up. We have, first of all, we have our workshop 3, Become Your Own Bank. This is going to be today at 5 o'clock p.m. Excuse this, but it's going to be at 5 o'clock p.m. today as well. This will be part 3, right? So that'll be at 5 o'clock today. We're then going to have our sneak peek Sunday tonight, right? At that's going to be at 7:30 p.m. at Live Wealthy Wise You, Live Wealthy Wise You, live dot wealthy wise the letter u.com. So if you want to come to that, you're welcome to do that. You can like this or anything, I'll send it to you. If you like, comment, or anything with this link. All right. And then also what we're going to have is we are going to have today the understanding money. I was blessed to be invited again to the Lion's Den. I appreciate them inviting me. It was extremely exciting. I'm super happy with that invite and I do appreciate it. And so understanding money is the topic for this evening. And I will be going through certain things that will behoove everyone to be on. If you go to my Facebook page, you're going to see the link to it as well to this event. Okay. So you can follow the Facebook page on the Rich Dad Poor Dads, all of them. If you go to the descriptions, they're going to have the links to my Facebook page, Instagram page, and all that. Click on the Facebook page and you'll be able to get and find the link to this event going on tonight, which is going to be super exciting. I'm super excited about it. And I'm looking forward to sharing with as many people as possible on their platform. Okay, so this is going to be great. We're going to go back to where we left off on Rich Dad Poor Dad, which I'm excited about. And so again, this is going to be really powerful. Okay, so I want everybody to understand that we are in the Rich Dad Poor Dad portion, right? And that we are really we left off basically in lesson 2, right? We started lesson 2 for the first time. So we're in lesson 2, right? Where we left off on Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Okay. And so again, tonight we're going to have part 3 of what we left off on Becoming Your Own Bank tonight at tonight at what time is that one going to be? That one's going to be at 5 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time, 6 o'clock p.m. Eastern. And we're going to continue again in our Rich Dad Poor Dad conversation, right? And the reason I'm doing Rich Dad Poor Dad again is because a lot of times when I'm sharing information about finances, in other words, the things that I'm sharing, becoming your own bank, right? Protecting your family, um, instant pay raise. You got what I'm saying? Saving on taxes. You should, and then being able to have a bank account where you can actually have no risk, high yield returns that's going to bring you interest. You should be running to that. If you're not running to that, it's because there's something missing. And when we do full presentations, I notice most people just literally are not educated or illiterate when it comes to finance, and it's not your fault. Finance is not taught in the school system purposefully, it's taught at home. So if your parents do not understand finance, which the majority don't, then you could not have learned it. It would be impossible for you to have learned finance. Okay. And so this is very important. It's something very important to understand. And so we're going to get financial literacy, right? Moving through books that like Rich Dad Poor Dad. But I don't want to deal with mindset. And this is very important to get. I don't want to deal with mindset. Everybody understands the mindset that's necessary to get it. And if you don't, there's a lot of videos on the mindset that you need in order to get it. That's why I'm not going through Think and Grow Rich. I'm going through Rich Dad Poor Dad, because what we want to do now is add practical application to it. Most people understand that they need to be wealthy. If I asked everybody in the room, do you want to be a millionaire? Everybody raises their hand. They understand that they want to be a millionaire innately. They get that. But when it comes to the practical application of becoming a millionaire, that's where they get lost. And so when I'm using terms like high yield, right, returns with no risk, when I'm saying that, the average person, that they can't grasp the concept. And so that's why we're going over Rich Dad Poor Dad, because it's going to take it from the foundational base all the way through. And this is part 7. If you missed part 1 through 6, if you're on our Facebook, you can watch it there. If you're on YouTube, which I advise because I have a playlist there of them in order, you can watch parts 1, 2, 3, 4 all the way down, coming through it. And then we talk about each lesson as we go through it. So we're in lesson 2 right now, right? And so in lesson 2, we're going to start off where we left off last time. It says our school system, created in the agrarian age, still believes in homes with no foundation, right? I'm starting here so you can know where I'm at, right? So our school system, right, created in the agrarian age, still believes in homes with no foundation. Okay, the agrarian age means when the country was based in farming. Though this, don't get me wrong, it's still based in farming, or you would not have food. But everybody farmed. That was the state of being. We're in the industrial. We're actually past that now. They call it the atomic age right now, right? We went from the industrial age to information age, and they're calling this the atomic age, right? Because things are happening so fast, is why they're saying that. Dirt floors are still the rage. So kids graduate from school with virtually no financial foundation. One day, sleepless and deep in debt in suburbia, living the American dream, they decide that the answer to their financial problems is to find a way to get rich quick. And this is where the problem comes in, right? It's not about getting rich quick. It's about surely getting rich. It's about surely becoming wealthy. Surely, right? Comfortably, but surely becoming wealthy. That's what it's about, right? So once you understand that that's what it's about, not getting rich quick, but surely becoming wealthy, now we can put a plan together, what, that's going to make sure that we become wealthy, right? The only thing is, due to the fact that we do have the high yield accounts, we now can become wealthy relatively quickly compared to the average person, and the type of instruments that the average person is availed to them, right? So the things that are availed to the average person, right, that will take them a while to become wealthy. But the things that are available to us now, we're going to be able to become wealthy relatively much faster. So construction on the skyscraper begins. It goes up quickly, and soon, instead of the Empire State Building, we have the Leaning Tower of Suburbia. The sleepless nights return, right? Because the person is trying to get rich quick. And I've been through this. Don't get me wrong. I've lived all of this, what they're talking about, because I understand when I tried to get rich quick. I understand making a lot of money, but then not being able to have a place to put it, or knowing where to put my money, where it was going to make money for me for real. These type of issues took place, but you can never ever win until you get started. So you have to start and make the mistakes so that now you can be a professional and win, right? As for Mike and me in our adult years, both of our choices were possible because we were taught to pour a strong financial foundation when we were just kids. Accounting is possibly the most confusing, boring subject in the world. But if you want to get rich, be rich long term, it could be the most important subject. For Rich Dad, the question was how to take a boring and confusing subject and teach it to children. The answer he found was to make it simple by teaching in pictures. So we're going to see these pictures coming up right today that he was taught. My rich dad put a strong financial foundation for Mike and me. Since we were just kids, he created a simple way to teach us. For years, he only drew pictures and used few words. Mike and I understood the simple drawings, the jargon, the movement of money, and then in later years, Rich Dad began adding numbers, right? Today, Mike has gone on to master much more complex and sophisticated accounting analysis because he had to in order to run his empire. I am not as sophisticated because my empire is smaller, yet we come from the same simple foundation. Over the following pages, I offer you the same simple line drawings Mike's dad created for us. Though basic, those drawings help guide two little boys in building great sums of wealth on a on a solid and deep foundation. So here's a key phrase right here that I want you to always remember. Take a screenshot of that, write it down or something, because I want to make sure that you take a screenshot of this and understand this point right here. It says rich people acquire assets. This is very important to get right here. Now you've heard me talk about how the real wealthy, that wealthy 1%, they acquire assets. That is true. But what they learn to do is master turning those assets into something that's interest based, where their money is going to keep bringing them money in. So they understand how to take the money out of the asset in order for them to be able to turn that into interest and put it in interest bearing accounts with the highest amount interest with the lowest amount of risk, in order for them to be able to live off the interest, because the wealthy do not live off of money and the wealthy do not live off of credit. They live off of interest, and until you master living off of interest, you will be poor. I don't care if you make $10 million. Until you master living off interest versus living off money, you will be broke again within probably 3 to 5 years at max. This is very important. That's why you will see wealthy people become wealthy, as we talked about in part 6. You will see wealthy people become wealthy, but then they'll go broke. Or not wealthy, they'll become rich. And then they'll go broke because they don't have the knowledge base or the financial literacy in order to maintain it. Right. So I want you to understand this is a key point right here that I'm making. The interest, the purpose of them acquiring assets is so that they can borrow from it or get good debt in order to put it into an interest bearing account where their interest is higher than their interest payment. And now they're making a profit off of it every year, but they're growing their interest. Compound interest is considered what? The eighth wonder of the world. I will repeat. Compound interest is considered the eighth wonder of the world. So you want to master compound interest. And so that's what I'm sharing with you as we go through these. So I want you to be very clear on what I'm saying. So if you saw our Understanding Money workshop, if you didn't get to see that, make sure you go watch that. But the Understanding Money workshop that I did deals specifically with that topic. And I'm going to go much deeper into it at a later date. But I want you to understand that concept. It's very important to start thinking like that now, right? So then it says, for years, he only drew pictures and used few words. Okay, we did that already. So we're coming down here and we're going to the next page. So rule number 1, you must know the difference between an asset and a liability and buy assets. This is one of the most important lessons you could ever learn in your life right here. What we're about to read right now is a game changer. This is a game changer because it's going to change how you look at life and money. Right? It's going to change how you look at money in life, right? Because if you get this concept right here, you're gonna start being able to build wealth through assets, right? But you need to learn how to transfer that wealth into a form that will give you an interest bearing account. I want you to be clear, right? This is what you need to start thinking about. But the first thing you need to get, very simple, is you must know the difference between an asset and a liability and buy assets. If you want to be rich, this is all you need to know. If you want to be rich, to get wealthy, there's some more stages. But if you want to be rich, this is all you need to know. It is rule number 1. It is the only rule. This may sound absurdly simple, but most people have no idea how profound this rule is. Most people struggle financially because they do not know the difference between an asset and a liability. And this brings us back to the conversation we were having about language, right? Language. What's the difference between an asset and a liability? That's language. What is the difference between buying and investing? That's language, right? We want to make sure that we are always investing, not buying. So if you start switching your terminology into investing, now you start look at what is my return on investment? When I buy this car, how much money is that car going to make me? What is my return on investment? Time. When I spend my time here, how much money is that going to bring me back? That's return on investment. And that will bring us into what I teach in mindset called the four quadrants as well, right? So there are four quadrants that you can put yourself into that is going to make the difference between your time. But that's a whole different subject. I'm not going to get into that right now. I might do that at a later date. So we're talking about finance. So we want to look at spending, right? Versus what? Investing. Once you learn to start utilizing the words, I invest, I don't spend, right? Once you start doing that, everything that you your whole life will change. Those are key words that you need to deal with, right? So rich people acquire assets. The poor and middle class acquire liabilities that they what? Think are assets. Rich people acquire assets. The poor and middle class acquire liabilities that they think are assets. So if you go back to our understanding money workshop, I talked about liabilities, right? What is a liability versus an expense? A liability is different than an expense. When Rich Dad explained this to Mike and me, we thought he was kidding. Here we were, nearly teenagers, and waiting for the secret to getting rich. And this was his answer. It was so simple that we stopped for a long time to think about it. What is an asset? Asked Mike. Don't worry right now, said Rich Dad. Just let the idea sink in. If you can comprehend the simplicity, your life will have a plan and be financially easy. It is simple. That is why the idea is missed, right? This is why the idea is missed. You mean all we need to know is what an asset is, acquire them, and we'll be rich? I asked. Rich Dad nodded his head. It is that simple. So if you want to be wealthy, what you need to do is know how what an asset is, acquire them, and then you'll be rich. That's rich, not wealthy. That's step one to becoming wealthy, though. You have to become rich before you can become wealthy. And remember, if you watch the piece I did on what the Bible says about money, right? Wisdom has three components: length of days, riches, and honor. Right. So this is a component, but there's other steps to becoming wise. Rich Dad nodded his head. It's that simple. If it's that simple, how come everyone is not rich? I asked. Rich Dad smiled. Because people do not know the difference between an asset and a liability. I remember asking, how could adults be so misguided if it is that simple? If it is that important, why would everyone not want to find out? It took Rich Dad only a few minutes to explain what assets and liabilities were. As an adult, I have difficulty explaining it to other adults. This is very important. Why? Because this thought process goes against everything you've ever learned in your life. It goes totally against it, right? It goes totally against everything you've ever learned in your life. You were purposefully trained to buy what? Liabilities. Why? Because it makes the wealthy and the rich more money. So you were purposefully taught in school, through school system, and at home. If your parents weren't wealthy, you were taught, remember, financial literacy is taught at home. You were taught to purchase liabilities. You were taught liabilities is what makes you rich, but they just make you look rich, but you're just broke at a higher level. So you were taught purposefully to miss this conversation. That's why it's hard to teach to adults, right? Then he says, I remember asking, how could adults be misguided? We did that. As an adult, I'm here just so y'all can follow along. As an adult, I have difficulty explaining it to other adults. The simplicity of the idea escapes them because they have been educated differently. Notice that, educated. And what have they been educated to do? Buy liabilities. They were taught. What does educated mean? Educated means something was actually branded to your subconscious mind. I want you to get this because it's an important point. Anytime something is branded to your subconscious mind, your body cannot do the opposite. I'm going to repeat. Anytime something is branded to your subconscious mind, right? Anytime something is branded to your subconscious mind, you have to do what your subconscious mind says. This is how habits are formed. A person might consciously want to stop smoking cigarettes, but they've branded the habit of taking that cigarette from their hand to their mouth over and over again, where it writes a pattern to their brain and it writes signals to their heart. Once that's done, to overcome that is very difficult. This is the same thing you've been taught. When you go out and buy something and it makes you feel good, you're writing that to your heart or your subconscious mind or to your patterns in your brain. And once you do that, it is hard to stop doing it. You're addicted to buying liabilities. You were taught that. And you were taught that's what makes you better than other people. That's what makes you look rich. But you will be broke on a high level. We don't want to do that anymore. We want to actually find wealth. We want to get true wealth, right? That's what we want to do. And so this is the key to true wealth. They were taught by other educated professionals such as bankers, accountants, real estate agents, financial planners, and so forth. The difficulty becomes in asking adults to unlearn. This is what you must do. You must unlearn everything that you've learned. Everything that you've learned. You must unlearn it. You must become a student. You must, in other words, humble yourself. Because until you humble yourself, you will be stuck in the same rut over and over and over again, right? So the difficulty comes in asking adults to unlearn or become children again. An intelligent adult often feels it is demeaning to pay attention to simplistic definitions. Rich Dad believed in the KISS principle. I do too. Keep it simple, stupid, or keep it super simple, right? I use keep it super simple. So he kept it simple for us, and that made our financial foundation strong. As again, my background is in marketing, right? I owned a marketing company for 25 years. So everything that I had to write, everything I had to promote, everything that I had to do, I had to make sure that a 5-year-old child could actually understand it. That is very important because you don't know the education level of your audience. So keep it super simple is very important when bringing forth information. That's why we're going through this book. So, what causes the confusion? How could something so simple be so screwed up? Why would someone buy an asset that was really a liability? The answer is found in basic education. Again, in basic brainwashing or in basic subconscious mind writing or in what is called known as branding, right? That's where the problem comes. So, what caused the confusion, right? We focused on the word literacy. We focused on the word literacy and not financial literacy. What defines something to be an asset or a liability are not words. In fact, if you really want to be confused, Look up the words asset and liability in the dictionary. I know the definition may sound good to a trained accountant, but for the average person, it makes no sense whatsoever. That means that the average person was never taught anything about finances. Even though we know math, we were taught all the way up to calculus, right? Financial math makes no sense to those that are not financially literate. But we adults are often too proud to admit that something does not make sense. To us young boys, Rich Dad said, what defines an asset are not words, but numbers. And if you can't read the numbers, you can't tell an asset from a hole in the ground. In accounting, Rich Dad would just say it's not the numbers, but what the numbers are telling you. It's just like words. It's not the words, but the story the words are telling you. So you have to be able to read the numbers like you can read this book, right? That's what we're going through when we're talking about the banking and understanding the ebbs and flows, right? In our become your own bank in the historical treatise portion, part one and part two. And if you can't read the numbers, you can't tell an asset from a hole in the ground. In accounting, Rich Dad would just say it's not the numbers, but what the numbers are telling you. It's just like words. It's not the words, but the story the words are telling you. If you want to be rich, you've got to read and understand numbers. If I heard that once, I heard it 1,000 times from my rich dad. And I also heard the rich acquire assets and the poor and middle class acquire liabilities. So if you want to be rich, you must stop doing what the poor and the middle class do and only purchase assets, not liabilities. Here is how to tell the difference between an asset and a liability. Most accountants and financial professionals do not agree with the definitions, but these simple drawings were the start of strong financial foundations for two young boys. So, those that were educated, accountants and financial professionals, right, which most of them are not wealthy, right? I want you to be clear. Most accountants are not wealthy, and most financial professionals are not wealthy, but they're going to disagree with the wealthy because the wealthy figured out even what they didn't because what? They were educated, right? Many of the wealthy people that you know didn't even make it through high school. So they weren't brainwashed into thinking that they knew something. So they do what? What does the wealthy do? The wealthy have a team of experts for every function in their life. This is a key point. This is a high point. The wealthy have a team of experts for everything in their life, right? This is the cash flow pattern of an asset, right? So, what is the cash flow pattern of an asset? An asset leads to cash flow, income. An asset will always lead to income. All right. I want to keep that real simple. The top part of the diagram is an income statement, often called a profit and loss statement or P&L, right? It measures income and expenses, money in and money out. The lower part of the diagram is a balance sheet, right? So we see the balance sheet here, assets and liabilities, right? And then we see the income statement here, income and expenses, right? So we have a P&L and a balance sheet. It measures income and expenses, money in and out. The lower part of the diagram is a balance sheet. It's called that because it's supposed to balance assets against liabilities. Many financial novices do not know the relationship between the income statement and the balance sheet, and it is vital to understand that relationship. So, as I said earlier, my rich dad simply told two young boys that assets puts money in your pocket. Nice, simple, and usable. So all assets put money in your pocket. They add to your monthly or weekly or daily income just like your check at your job. If it doesn't add to your income monthly, daily, or weekly, if it's not residual, basically, or bringing in monies, yeah, it will be residual. It is not an asset. I want you to be clear on that. That is very, very, very important. It is not an asset. It is a liability, right? So let's continue. Assets put money in your pocket, nice, simple, and usable. This is the cash flow pattern of a liability, right? So we dealt with an asset. Liability has attached to it a monthly expense or a bill that you have to pay off, right? Liabilities and they can be paid off. This is something I want you to be clear on. A liability is something that can be paid off. Your gas and electric is an expense. It's not a liability because you can never pay it off. It's an expense, not a liability. You're going to pay on that forever, period. Right? As long as you have a gas and electric bill, you're going to pay on that. That's an expense, not a liability. A liability is something that can be paid off, that you buy, that can be paid off, but it goes in the expense column because it's taking money from you. So now let's go through this. Now that assets and liabilities have been defined through pictures, it may be easier to understand my definitions in words. An asset is something that puts money in my pocket. A liability is something that takes money out of my pocket. This is really all you need to know. If you want to be rich, simply spend your life buying assets. So if you buy it and it's taking money out of your pocket, it is a liability. If you want to be poor, let me say that again. If you buy it and it's taking more money out of your pocket than it's bringing you in money, it's a liability. If you buy it and it's bringing you more money in than it takes to take care of it and spend on it, then it is a liability. So I want y'all to be clear on that. An asset is something that puts money in my pocket. A liability is something that takes money out of my pocket. This is really all you need to know if you want to be rich. Simply spend your life buying assets. If you want to be poor or middle class, spend your life buying liabilities. Right? Now, I want you to see how simple that switch is. If you can just get this concept, you can make mistakes over and over and over again till you figure out how to be wealthy. But I'm going to share with you how to be wealthy as you continue listening to this to our program. Okay, so all these different workshops that I'm doing, and then we're going to continue in these type of books so that you really understand how to become wealthy. And then again, we have the experts to help you and walk you through the process of becoming wealthy once you're able to wrap your mind around these concepts. Okay, so hopefully you're getting it. Okay, now the next thing, illiteracy, both in words and numbers, is the foundation of financial struggle. If people are having difficulties financially, there is something that they do not understand. That's it. And we can easily fix that, right? Illiteracy is something we all can fix as long as we do what? Humble ourselves and are willing to learn. If people are having difficulties financially, there is something that they don't understand, either in words or numbers. The rich are rich because they are more literate in different areas than people who struggle financially. That's it. That's the only thing. But our pride and our arrogancy says, no, they don't know more than me. Yes, they do. It is okay. That is all right, as long as you can humble yourself and learn. Now you can learn as much or more than them once you humble yourself. So if you want to be rich, right, and maintain your wealth, it's important to be financially literate in words as well as numbers, right? So very important. I want to drop this, right? I want to drop tonight. We are going to have our mindset training during the sneak peek Sunday, right? So on this sneak peek Sunday, we're going to have our mindset training. I want everybody to come in on the mindset training with us, right? For that tonight, if you would like to come, if you would just respond to this in any platform that you're on, or you can put in the text right now and I'll drop it in for the chat for you all, okay? But it's totally up to you what you want to do. Again, but I wanted to make sure that everybody got that, okay? So, or you can text more to 833, and I do apologize. This should be 833. Let me fix that. Text more to 833 740 2315. Again, that's 833 740 2315. Text that again to 833 740 2315. I do apologize for that being up wrong. Normally it's right, but I don't know what happened there. So I do apologize. All right. So we're going back now to our subject, which is Think and Grow Rich. And we're in part 7. And we've already looked at the asset versus liability diagram, right? As well as we see the income and expense and how they work. So maintain your wealth. It's important to be financially literate. In other words, in words as well as numbers. The arrows in the diagrams represent the flow of cash or cash flow. Numbers alone mean little. Just as words out of context mean little, it's the story that counts. In financial reporting, reading numbers is looking for the plot, the story of where the cash is flowing. In 80% of most families, the financial story paints a picture of hard work to get ahead. However, this effort is for nothing because they spend their lives buying liabilities instead of assets, right? So if you work in a job and you learn to buy assets instead of liabilities, that is your first step to wealth. You can become rich, but now we have to move into wealth right after that. So this is the cash flow pattern of a poor person. Income comes in, they pay their expenses, taxes, rent, food, transportation, and clothes, right? And then they have their balance sheet. They have no assets or liabilities. Right. So I want you to look at that. They're paying all expenses. Remember, what are expenses? Things you can never pay off. Things you can never pay off, right? You're gonna have to do that for the rest of your life. This is what the average person looks like, right? So let's look at that cycle again. I'm gonna pull that up. This is important right here. Let me add. Hold 1 second. Let me bring this in real quick. I want us to definitely see this. Hold 1 second. I believe it's this one. Yeah. So give me 1 second. Let me get it there for you guys. It's important. All right. So this is the debt cycle, right? So the debt cycle right here, right? What do we see? Some income is coming in, then you pay bills. This is the debt cycle, right? You're short on cash. You use credit to make up for it. Your credit balances grow, right? Your credit balances grow. And now you have higher interest payments, which takes away from your income. This is called the debt cycle. Okay. We want to get out of the debt cycle into the wealth cycle. And we're going to be discussing that as we move forward. So I wanted to share that with everyone. Okay. So now, balance sheet, assets and liabilities, right? Assets and liability. They don't have any. This is the cash flow pattern of a person in the middle class. So this was the poor. We dealt with the poor. Now we're dealing with the middle class, right? Let's deal with it. So they have a job that brings in a salary. That's the only income they got coming in. I want you to notice these are the only income they got coming in. They have expenses that they pay off, right? Just like the poor, just like the poor. But now they got liabilities. They have mortgages, car loans, credit card debt, and school loans. These are also expenses. So now, even though they're making more money, quote unquote, than the poor, right? They got more expenses, right? And they're living what? They're broke on a higher level. Why? Because they've added expenses to do what? Keep up with the Joneses. So everybody at their job is doing what? has the house, the car, and all, quote unquote, the American dream, which is really the American nightmare, right? Now what happens? Most of their check is gone, and they're in the same debt cycle as the poor, right? They're in the same debt cycle, no different. What? Some income, pay bills, short on cash, use credit. Their credit balances grow, higher payments, and some income. So this is the debt cycle. This is what we don't want to be in. This is where we've lived all of our lives, and we're addicted to it because we were subconsciously trained to do what? Buy liabilities through commercials, through our teachings in school, through all of the different media is designed to get you to become a consumer where you buy liabilities versus assets so that you can what? Pay another person, their children going to school, and all the other things that they've got going on for their family, and then be able to make sure that they're wealthy for from here out. That is the goal. So for them, that is the goal that they want you to follow. And so therefore you end up in the debt cycle, right? This is the cash flow pattern of a rich person. This is very important. They look at how much income they got in. And notice they don't have a job, do they? I want you to notice that this is a key difference. The poor and the middle class have jobs, right? And I'm going to show you how to turn that job over time as we go through these. I'm going to show you how to turn that job actually into an asset, or turn that money into a interest bearing asset versus, and then you won't have to work. You only work because you want to, not because you have to, versus a job. I mean, versus it being a liability, right? And then you'll be able to quit your job and retire early and do the things that you want and live longer, actually, because that job is stressing you and killing you. So income, look how much income they got coming in. They got rental income coming in. They got dividends coming in. They have what? The key word, interest. This word is so important. And royalties are residuals as well, right? Royalties are residuals. Interest is powerful. This is the key word I want you to get here. I want you to lock that word in. Don't forget the other ones, because these are all going to be allow you to increase this interest, right? It's going to be very important for you to get. Expenses, taxes, and mortgage payments. Okay. Or you have expenses, which are taxes and mortgage payments, right? Notice that taxes and mortgage payment is their expense. Now, their assets, real estate, stocks with dividends. Stocks without dividends are not, I don't consider them assets because they don't make you money unless you sell them. Stocks with dividends bring in residual. So I would call that an asset. I wouldn't, but stocks are not liabilities. I put them in a separate category, even though they are an asset. I put them in a category called investments. Investments are things that are going to make you money once you sell them, but they don't cost you anything as you hold them. Right? They're not bringing in residuals, but they're investments. They can cost you, I take that back. They can cost you something while you hold it, but they're going to make you way more money when you sell it. So rental property, yes, is an asset, but a investment property that you're holding and going to flip, that is an investment, because it's only going to bring you in money once you sell it. That's working. You have to work to make that happen. Stocks with dividends, you don't have to work. That money's coming in. Bonds, you don't have to work. I guess you do. Bonds will probably go into investments too. No, because they can call, you can make money off of them while they're sitting. Note, same. Intellectual property, yes, because you got the royalties off of that. Right. So those are all of that right there. All of this is residual income coming in. Right. And so these assets are going to do that. Now, what is the liability? Mortgage. That's the house, right? Mortgage is your house payment. Taxes, which we're going to get down to zero. If you went to our tax workshop, we're going to show you how to get down to paying zero taxes legally, ethically, and morally, right? And so taxes also are expenses that the wealthy pay. Consumer loans, they have loans because they might have been getting a loan to get real estate, but the real estate's going to make them more money than they're going to pay off in the loan, right? So that is a liability, but it's going to be paid off with the real estate that they're investing in, and they're going to end up with a profit, right? And then credit cards, right, are liability also, right? Which I put credit cards to a degree. Yeah, I guess you could pay them off. So they are a liability, which would also be an expense, right? Now, the monthly that you would pay on the credit card would be the expense. The actual full balances go here. So the mortgage payment is an expense. The mortgage, the full mortgage amount is the liability. The credit card is a liability, but the credit card payment monthly monthly payment is an expense. So I went through that on the understanding money portion of our workshop. So I want you to be clear on that, right? All of these diagrams are obviously oversimplified. Everyone has living expenses, the need for food, shelter, and clothing. The diagrams show the flow of cash through a poor, middle class, and wealthy person's life. It is the cash flow that tells the story of how a person handles their money. So let's look at this again. The poor person had what? Let's look at it. Let me see if I can get back to that picture. Give me 1 second. I do apologize. Let me go see if I can do it this way. Yeah. Okay. So the cash flow of an asset, we did that. Let's go back, go down. Okay. So the cash flow pattern of a person, the poor person, let's go to them first, is what? It won't let me scroll with my finger. is They have income and expenses, no assets and no liabilities. This is how you can put yourself in the category. Just know where you are. Just be honest. Do I have any assets? Do I have any liabilities? No. Okay, I'm poor. That's okay. Just be real with it, right? Now, next is going to be you could be in a better position than the middle class actually in that position, right? Because you don't have nothing holding you back. You don't have nothing but bills. You can put them bills off as long as you want to, really, right? Until you build up what you want in order to create where your bills are now paid for through your interest or through your assets. Now, the middle class, right? Income statement. So they have what? Income, expenses, and liabilities. They have both. So they have long-term bills. The poor don't have any long-term bills. That's why I said you can come out, you might be in a better position because now the middle class have to remove debt before they can start building assets a lot of times. So that's why you hear a lot of people, if they're middle class, you're going to hear they're going to love debt elimination. Liabilities are where your debts live, right? But as a poor person, you ain't got no debt. You ain't in debt. See what I'm saying? You might be in a better position to get out of it. But the middle class, yep, you get rid of them debts or you start buying assets that's going to balance out the debts. You can do it either which way, but it depends. A lot of times, the middle class, due to the education that you have the mindset is I got to pay my bills. Poor people, we don't have that, right? When it comes to being poor, you ain't got that, right? You can run now. You can run at full speed. You ain't worried about all that. You're gonna get that done. And so you get as many assets as possible. You can put them bills on hold. These bills you can put on hold and get by assets, because you're gonna pay all this off. You can do the same thing with liabilities, but it might put your credit in a situation which can be repaired also. But I advise debt elimination if you can make it happen quickly. And we're very good. Our experts are very good at breaking down your debt. We've got people that had 20, 30-year debts, pay them off in 3 to 5, 7 years. So that's powerful, and you can start building assets at the same time, or you can actually start building interest. Like I said, I'm going to show you how to take that job and turn that into an interest bearing entity for you, and now you can be living off your interest, paying this stuff off, right? And that's extremely powerful. That right there is extremely powerful for your debt elimination program. We've got experts to walk you through that. This is the cash flow pattern of a rich person, right? So now the rich person has what? Income, expenses, but they have assets. And look how much income they got coming in. They have income from multiple streams of income. You always hear that, but you don't really see the practical application of multiple streams of income. This is what it's talking about. So if you can get this, and I advise everyone to get this book, Rich Dad Poor Dad. Get read this book. It's very important that you have a copy of it so you can have this in front of your face, right? So, assets, real estate, stocks, bonds, notes, intellectual property, right? Liabilities, mortgage, consumer loans, credit cards, right? But their assets are going to be more than their liabilities. Where the middle class don't have any assets, so their assets are lower, right, than their liabilities. And the poor don't have assets or liabilities, so the only thing you got is expenses, which you really ain't got to worry about, right? And if you look at all the money that is being wasted in your household uh, from the things that you're buying that are liabilities, you try to keep up with the Joneses. If you just really, and if you could work with us, you don't even have to change your lifestyle, because we will find the money that's already there that'll allow you to keep your lifestyle and then be able to do the things that I'm talking about, no matter whether you're poor, middle class, or wealthy. Now, chapter 2, lesson 2. All of these diagrams are obviously oversimplified. Everyone has living expenses, the need for food, shelter, and clothing. The diagrams show the flow of cash through a poor, middle class, and wealthy person's life. It is the cash flow that tells the story of how a person handles their money. The reason I started with the story of the richest men in America is to illustrate the flaw in believing that money will solve all problems. We went through that in part 6. Okay, so if you missed part 6, go back and watch it. It's to illustrate the flaw in believing that money will solve all problems. That is why I cringe whenever I hear people ask me how to get rich quicker or where they should start. I often hear I'm in debt, so I need to make more money. I'm in debt, debt elimination program. You need that. So I need to make more money. But more money will often not solve the problem, and it won't. It won't, right? So I told you all before I owned $1 million company in the past. That ain't gonna solve the problem. Until you understand these concepts, you will be broke again, right? Now, in fact, it may compound the problem. Money often makes obvious our tragic human flaws, putting a spotlight on what we don't know. That is why, all too often, a person who comes into a sudden windfall of cash, let's say an inheritance, a pay raise, or lottery winnings, soon returns to the same financial mess, if not worse, than the mess they were in before. Money only accentuates the cash flow pattern running in your head. If your pattern is to spend everything you get, most likely an increase in cash will just result in an increase in spending. Thus, the saying, a fool and his money is one big party, or a fool and his money is soon parted. So we have to now really delve into our mind. We have to delve into who we're being. We have to delve into these subconscious patterns, and we must totally admit to ourselves. So you cannot solve a problem until you admit that you have one. We must totally admit that we are addicted to spending money versus investing in money. And we are addicted, right? We are addicted to, I do apologize. I didn't mean to have that up this whole time. We are addicted to cash flow. I mean, not cash flow, excuse me. We are addicted to, we are addicted to buying liabilities versus buying assets. right? So with that, guys, we're going to stop here. We will start back here. I want you to, because I really want you to meditate on this position. We will start back again. As I stated before, we've got tonight, we have our sneak peeks tonight for everybody to get on. We will walk you through the process. You get to see have an opportunity to see what it is that we're doing. We've got our workshop 3 starting at 5 o'clock p.m. today. That will be at 5 o'clock p.m. Workshop 3, become your own bank. We've already done part 1 and part 2. We're going to be doing part 3 on that, and we should be closing that out today. If you missed them, we have our workshop Understanding Money that has already taken place. You can find that in our recordings. Workshop 2, Legally Avoid Taxes. You can find that in our recordings also on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, Instagram, not Instagram, excuse me, LinkedIn as well, right? Instagram, I can't run this at the simultaneously at this juncture. I'm about to start doing lives there though, to be able to help individuals and walk them through the process on our Instagram as well, coming up shortly. And then the other thing is tonight, I've been invited to the Lions Den for Understanding Money at 9:30 p.m. This will take place Central Standard Time, 10:30 p.m. Eastern. Again, that link I have dropped into our Facebook. You can get that link on this video. You'll be able to see the links to our Facebook. Get on there, look for events, or look on or click on my picture, and it should show everything that I posted. And you'll be able to get there. Also, it's in my story, so you'll be able to get there either way, and it's on our Instagram story as well. Also, so with that, guys, I appreciate everybody's time. And until next time, I will see you all. I'm looking forward to seeing you all at the top so that we can make wealth real. And at the same time, I love you all with a perfect love, and there's nothing you can do about it. Peace.